you need to accept that loneliness is a feeling, but you don't have to judge it to be a bad feeling. Sometimes you wonder whether you made the right choice. You just traveled here, you spend all this money, you're away from your family, you're studying a course that's very long with a career that's also very long. That there are times that you feel low, a little bit confused. So when you're missing your family and you feel a little lonely, which is something that I felt many times over the last 8 years, and it's very normal to me to feel lonely. But one thing I always tell myself is that I'm doing this for them. I'm doing this for the people I love, and I'm going to go back to them at some point. And even if you're feeling lonely, it doesn't mean you're alone.
All right, so we're live, yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. What is going on, guys? My name is Kenji. Welcome back to the channel. I hope it's not the first time you're watching one of my videos, but just in case it is, I'm a final year medical student studying King's College London. And today I have a really special guest who's back on the channel today, who's Arun. So Arun, thank you so much for coming back on the channel, man. I really appreciate it.
Man, thanks for having me back on. Happy to be here.
And if you guys, before you guys actually start watching this video, definitely check out the last video that Arun and I did, where we talked about his experience studying medicine, starting medical school at the age of 25. But in this video, we have a separate video where we're talking about Arun's experience being an international student in the UK. And Arun, I'll let you talk as well about your story, but he has a really unique story about him being in the UK over the last 8 years of university. So I think there's probably no one better to talk about what it's like being an international here in the UK than you, Arun. So do you want to tell us a bit about yourself? Again, if people don't know you, what have you done up until now in terms of you being in the UK and before?
Yeah, so I graduated high school where I did the IB, where some of you did A levels around 18, and then I spent about 2 years in the army in Singapore, where we all did that for 2 years. And then at 21, I decided to come to the UK to do my first degree, which was biomedical science, same as you. And I did that for 3 years. I then took a break for 1 year where I applied for medicine, and then I started medicine at 25. And so I've been in the UK now for about 8 to 9 years now, but I'm in my 8th year of university. So, yeah. So
starting from the beginning, why did you decide to do medicine in the UK? So speaking generally, when you first came to do biomed, just doing any degree in the UK, and then speaking more specifically about medicine, why doing medicine in the UK?
So, okay, I guess when I was graduating, and a lot of my friends, when we started applying for university, there were several choices that we had. So I was in Singapore, so obviously Singapore was an option. And then some of the common universities that we were all applying to was Australia, Canada, the US, and the UK. There were definitely other countries, but these were the main ones that we were applying to. And so I've been to the US. I've visited Australia and the UK before I had applied. But I guess for me, the UK just made more sense because I don't know whether it was growing up with British culture generally and just having it around. I just felt like it worked. And when I came to London, when I was a little younger, I really did like it. And I just felt like being in London, in such an international city, it would just work for me because I wanted to be in a city and I would have liked it to be international as well. So it really worked. I can't really speak for the rest of the UK, but generally, there are definitely similar experiences all throughout the major cities in the UK if you're going to study medicine in any of the universities.
Okay, so I guess that was your first thoughts when thinking about where to apply when you were at that very first beginning. And in terms of doing medicine in the UK, was that always your plan, or was that not your plan when you first came here?
When I first came for biomedical science, it was definitely not the plan. Applying for medicine was something that I was going to do a little later. But so the first time, the reason why I came to the UK was because I wanted to be here. And then the next question was, do I stay in the UK to study medicine, or do I start applying everywhere else and try to go somewhere else? Should I go back home? Should I go to the US, which some people did? And I was just comfortable. That's the easiest answer I could give you, was because I really enjoyed my time here. And I didn't see a reason to leave London because as anyone that's thinking of applying to the UK or applying to London, it is really a nice place for an international to be because you can really find everything that you're probably looking for. I don't see what you wouldn't be able to find that you would find somewhere else. So for me, it was comfort. And I said, you know what? Great universities in the UK. The NHS is an amazing system that for our learning purposes that we can then take back to our own countries. I felt that the NHS is great. That's a system that it's a good learning point and we can take a lot from it.
Okay, so what were these things that you say gave you comfort? What were the things that you loved about the UK? What were the things that allowed you to feel comfortable here over the couple of years you've been here?
So I guess firstly, I mean, being from Singapore and just also being Indian, there are a lot of cultural things that you can find in the UK. I mean, both are ex-British colonies. So generally, I mean,
Which country isn't? Yeah.
yeah, okay, yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot. So
Yeah.
generally, I mean, it just the whole. There are a lot of people that are just like you, and I know that sometimes you should be looking for people that are not just like you as well. But initially, the comfort does come from finding people just like you, and for me, it was just really easy to do that. So the food, the people, and it was just very easygoing. So I just thought instead of uprooting my life and then starting all over again when I was 24, 25, I thought maybe this would be the right thing to do. And not only that, I think generally in London and in the UK, I guess it feels generally free. And I feel like I can actually pursue what I feel like pursuing. Of course, you may get this in several other countries that you might apply for medicine as well. But for me, that's just what I wanted.
Okay. And if you weren't here before for your previous degree and you had no like prior experience in the UK, do you think you would have applied to medicine in the UK had you not done biomed here first?
That's yeah, so that's the thing. If I had done biomed anywhere else, I feel that I would have done the same and stayed wherever else as well. Because I generally do, if I find comfort in something, I'm going to stay. And as much as I would explain to anyone else that they should get out of their comfort zone, sometimes you need to have some form of comfort while you get out of your comfort zone. So while you explore other things in your life, try to be comfortable in a city or a location so that you can get out of your comfort zone. So for me, it was like, okay, if I want to push myself further, let's not put myself into a location that makes me uncomfortable so I can't even work on my own growth. So I would have said, if anything, I would have gone to Australia, would have been my second option. And if I had gone to Australia to do biomed, I would have definitely stayed in Australia to do medicine because it's not that far from Asia as well. So it would have made sense.
Okay. And that's a good point because like medicine is such a big decision. You're going to be in this country for 5 years of your life, which is like at that time like a quarter of your life. It's a huge decision. So the point you made of find a place where you already feel slight comfort in and stick to that decision. Even if let's say you're 18 years old, you've never done any prior degree before that, you've never been to the country before, maybe go to London for a couple of months over summer with your family and to go around, be a tourist here, see what you think of the actual area before actually considering to make such a huge decision. And the other point you made, which I really liked, was that you found comfort in the UK, and you made a point of, if you found people who are similar to you. So I know like a lot of your friends here are Singaporean. There's a lot of also South Asians here in the UK, and I definitely feel that as well. So me having been born in Kenya, lived in Japan, being multicultural. When I first came here, well the most recently I was 14 years old, and that was a huge cultural shift, coming from Kenya where we didn't really have that many, not many of my friends were British, but then moving here, it wasn't that dissimilar. When I actually left Kenya when I was 7 years old and went to Japan for a year, like that was crazy. Like that was a huge difference. I really felt uncomfortable. But coming to the UK, actually, for the first couple of weeks to months, I maybe felt a bit of uncomfort, but that really settled down and I really blended in nicely. And I think, when I first met you as well, I think, we got along straight away. Me being British for a number of years now and coming from a different side of the world, we still found each other and still made friends who were like us. So I think that was a really, really key point that I like that you said. Yeah,
and I think I just want to say that, like you said, if you have an open mind, if you're coming from somewhere else, you need to be open to the fact that there'll be a lot of people coming from all over the place as well. And so being open is the most important thing so that you can at least absorb other people's energy, vibe, culture, whatever, because if you can't take whatever they're giving out, then it's going to be a little bit difficult. You don't always have to be comfortable, but you should be open to however else, all these other people that are coming from everywhere when they come to uni, you got to be open to that. And I do have to say that the thing about being comfortable and in the right place, whatever happens, I mean, even if you can't travel to the city that you want to apply to, or you can't go there for whatever reason, just talk to
Yeah.
people that may have visited as well and ask them about the culture, ask them about the people, and try to talk to them, or even ask people online. You know,
Yeah.
does
Yeah.
this city or does this university have some of the things that I'm interested in? Does it have these types of people? Because you can find out quite a lot online from your favorite YouTubers on Instagram, Twitter. I mean, some of them might not reply to you, but you will get a lot of answers from some of the comments online so that you can understand whether the things that you care about actually fit in that city or the university.
Absolutely. And what are these differences you're talking about? You said there's some differences that you need to get used to. What sort of things for you when you first arrived here, being 20 years old? What sort of things stood out to you being different in the UK than back home? Did you have to get used to?
I think, as much as when you watch British culture on TV or online, when you get here, it's a bit different because obviously any kind of media, it puts out a certain version of every culture. And then you get here and then you come to London and you're like, okay, there's like 20 different types of British culture in London alone. Like this is not what I saw online. So,
yeah, absolutely.
So there are a lot of different things. So whatever perception you come in, and then this is what you get. But I think the differences really just have to do with their lived experiences. So like for you and for maybe some of my other British friends initially, like you guys have certain things that you grew up with. Maybe not you because you weren't here for that long, but some people have grown up with certain things. So there's certain things you may not understand. You can't really relate to. But what's really important is to explore why certain things matter to other people. And that's one thing that I would say is very important if you want to fit in, is not about you just trying to fit in and just relating. It's about you understanding why it matters to them. And that's a very quick way for you to then, so this is what matters to them, which is similar to my culture and how it matters to me. And then that's how you find like those connections, even though you're very different, but you will care about the same core values. And that's how you really get in.
Okay. All right. And that's deep, man. So one of them being a bit of a culture change you need to get used to. Were there any other disadvantages, would you say, of being here in the UK, being so far away from home, from your family, from your friends? What other sort of things did you face in the last 8 years that may be difficult that international students should know about?
So just like you said, being away from your family, and obviously with COVID recently, I mean, it's a little bit, you can't really compare it for the last few years. Generally, for a lot of people, it can get lonely and you will miss your family, and that's very normal. But what's really important, like that shouldn't be a reason to fear leaving them, because you're leaving where you are to study something that's important to you so that you can gain a bunch of knowledge and then go back and help your family, help your community. So, that's something that you have to keep in mind. Why are you coming to uni? What are you going to do with your degree? So when you're missing your family and you feel a little lonely, which is something that I felt many times over the last 8 years, it's very normal to me to feel lonely. But one thing I always tell myself is that I'm doing this for them. I'm doing this for the people I love, and I'm going to go back to them at some point. And even if you're feeling lonely, it doesn't mean you're alone. There are two different feelings. Like there are a lot of people around you and you can get help, but feeling lonely is something that you just reflect on, and sometimes you do have to accept. And especially when it comes around the winter, if you're coming from places that do not have winter, like me, like I've been in the winter before. Yeah, it's really dark, it's really gloomy. And I mean, people have heard about UK weather, London weather. Yes, it can get kind of cloudy for 10, 15 days straight, but you have to find the beauty in it, and you have to always focus on why you're here.
Okay. And so how do you deal with that loneliness? Because I know that everyone has their own way of dealing with things, with coping with things, but you in particular, how did you deal with it? What do you do during summer when, particularly during COVID? Because I know sometimes you'd go home, but during summer when maybe you don't have the money to fly home to see your family, maybe COVID's in the way, maybe there's obstacles that stop you from being with your family over Christmas. How do you deal with it?
I think the first and foremost, just you need to accept that loneliness is a feeling, but you don't have to judge it to be a bad feeling. It is a feeling. And so and you must always remember that there are people around you. So when Christmas comes around or New Year's, put in the work to spend time with people, reach out to them, have a conversation, go for a walk. It might be a little cold, but just, you need to stay active, and you need to remember that times are coming around. There's a lot of people around you. And whenever you need to seek help, especially in the UK, I can tell you honestly, there's a lot of help. And even if you need help with your mental health, there is help. So that's one great thing I would say for students in the UK is that there is a lot of help. Yeah. And I would say for me personally, or at least for anyone that can't really go home, this is a good time for you to connect with people on FaceTime, on Zoom. And like a lot of you have during COVID, what you've probably learned is that you can create a great connection online, but you have to put in the work to listen and share with people the things that you care about and the things you're learning when you're here in university.
Yeah. And I guess as you're here, you also kind of develop your own family in a way. Like I know that like you and I lived within 5-minute walk of each other for the last, in like what, first, second and third year. So for 3 years in a row, we were very, very close. And I'd see you in the gym. We might go like grab a Nando's. We might meet up on back when we were close, we physically in terms of distance, we were meeting up like quite regularly. And I guess that probably would have helped somewhat with, with our loneliness as well.
Yeah. And so like you said, if you're going to be a student just anywhere in the world, like you need to put in the work to do things in different places. Like going to the gym is not just about being fit. It's about meeting your friends. It's about socializing with other people and like-minded people who want to stay fit. If you have a nice workspace at home, still go to the library. Go to the library, socialize for a bit. Don't be too loud, but go to the libraries, talk to people, go to the cafe. You need to make it a point to get out of your apartment, of your house, whatever, and go do those things and make it a routine to, always be engaging with people wherever you go. It's very easy. And I can tell from my experience for someone who is relatively an introvert, I would say that I didn't love being out, but sometimes you have to force yourself to say, okay, for 1 hour a day, I'm going to go to one of these locations, fill up my social energy bar for a bit or deplete it, however you want to look at it. And then that's enough for the day. You have to intentionally go out and interact.
Definitely. And I guess that applies to like not just international students. I think for me as well. So I'm a home student, obviously, but my family were not near me. My mum moved to Kenya, my dad's in Japan. My family were not very close. So for me as well, when I was living close to you, the same rules applied to me. I had to, fair enough, I was a bit more extroverted when I was younger, but still, I still had to go to the library because even though I have this whole setup in my room, this is like a great place for me to work. I can work probably even better at home, but it's not good for me in the long term. I need to think about what am I able to do within this 4 weeks of revision period we have. 4 weeks is a long time to spend in my room, not see anyone. And that's when I'd bump into you in the library and we like we said, fill up that emotional, social quota together. Maybe I'd bump into you in the gym with other people. And so I guess that applies to everyone really, like, whether you're international or not really, is you have to think long term, what is going to be best for your mental health and for your physical health long term as well. And I guess that's, those are the strategies that we all have to learn and to deal with. And I guess that's when you go to university, that's really the point where you learn that, because you won't be surrounded by your family 24/7. Your mum won't be next door if you feel a bit lonely. It'll be you in your accommodation like me and like you, trying to deal with these existential feelings that we all have and all these crises that we all have.
And we all have it. And that's what I'm saying, that we all have it. Your friends are going to have it. Your fellow course mates are going to have it. So that's why you come together and talk about it. That's important. Yeah.
Well, it's just a weird thing though, because we all have it. But I think when you're dealing with it, sometimes you feel like, oh, everyone's having fun. I'm the only one in the whole entire world who experiences loneliness. But you don't realize actually until later on that actually you were lonely. I was lonely at the same time. We were all lonely. You just didn't think I was lonely, or I didn't think you were lonely. But actually, we all were lonely until you talk about it and do something about it. Okay, so that's one thing. So that's one disadvantage. Was there anything else you found difficult, or any cons to studying internationally compared to studying at home?
So the thing is, I can't really compare it to studying at home because I never actually went to university at home.
Yeah. But you went to high school at home, I guess.
I went to high school at home.
You had some studying to compare to, I guess.
I mean, okay, so I guess I would have saved more money. I would have, home fees at home would have been cheaper than paying international fees here. And I think that would be it. I think, honestly, to me, family and just spending less money. Other than that, my life, I can't imagine to be different compared to back home, because you really have to put yourself into in any environment you get into. And something that if you're applying to medical school, you're going to realize that you're going to go to different hospitals. And if you can't adapt to even an environment in a ward, it's going to be a little bit difficult. So, I mean, it's about learning to adapt. So that's, yeah.
Okay, so let's touch on that point of money. So that's obviously a huge question that everyone's been asking. You know, being an international medical student, the fees are a lot higher. I'll put them up on the screen somewhere, but I think your clinical years are probably in the 30,000s compared to what is it? Firstly, it goes up every year. First year, I think it was 33,000. I think this year is 38.
Yeah. So.
Okay, and that's a lot compared to like what I'm paying. Obviously, I'm paying £9,250 every single year. So that's an obvious thing that a lot of people would have to think about. So, and there are some obvious differences between you and I in terms of what we can do in the UK, how we can fund this, how we can get some more money on the side. So do you want to touch on that topic of money briefly? Yeah,
so I think it's definitely an anxiety that a lot of people have in trying to fund their education in the UK. I mean, especially medical school, and especially medical school in London. If you look at the prices, it's going to be much higher. So, I mean, if you can figure out a way to fund it, the next question is, how are you going to get by when you're here? And so, one thing that compared to me and you, the difference between what I can do and what you can do is that you can pretty much live your life and try to make money in any way that you can, legally, of course. And my legal restrictions are even harder. So for all international students, you basically can only work you can only work 20 hours a week during term, and that restriction goes off during the holidays. So, and also while you're working those 20 hours, there are also several restrictions, like you're supposed to work and get paid hourly. You're not supposed to be an entrepreneur. You're not supposed to start your own business. So there are certain things I would, you should check on the government website, but check online, check what you can do, what you can work, and then start considering what types of work might be useful to you that you can work around your education, because of course medicine is still very important. So make sure that that's still there. And what can you do for 20 hours a week? And obviously you've worked before enough times to say that, what would you recommend a student, let's say, who is 19 to work in London? What would they do?
So I think when you're 19 years old, right, the chances are that you're like we were, unskilled, so you're in university to learn the skills. You're here to learn medicine, whatever it might be. But at that point in time, especially as a first year, if you're 18, 19, you're first year, you're technically, like I was, unskilled, right? So a lot of the jobs that I did when I was 19 years old were, working in the bar, so bartending, waiting, being a waiter, working in a Mexican restaurant or Subway or whatever, making food. And it's not just about being, the low skills. It's also just about shift work. So it's a lot easier to pick up shifts in that sort of environment, right? Because they always need people to cover bar shifts or to be a waiter. Like that is something they always need. And that's technically usually a field that they rely on young people to do, right? Because it's more our generation. Well, it's both, but mostly our generation that can pick up those flexible hours. So flexibility is another key thing. So it's not just your skills, flexibility, but as you get more skilled and as you go through the years of medical school, that can start to slowly transition into jobs that require more skills. So a lot of my friends are healthcare assistants. A lot of them are phlebotomists because they learn that in medical school. They can then apply that in hospitals. They can work in hospital admin. They can tutor. So tutoring is a huge thing that everyone does, even from the age of 18, 19, because you can tutor low levels. So you can then transition to other jobs and start to make money that way. And I guess I assume there's no limit on how much you can earn, right? There's a limit on your hours, but I don't think there's a limit on your hourly rate. Am I right in saying that?
No, it's not. There's no, but it's within a student, in the context of being a student. Yeah, obviously, if you have a higher skill, then they're not going to limit how you're going to make power.
Okay, yeah, so at least that's a good thing. Is if you're limited to 20 hours a week, if you're in medical school, you probably can't even work longer than that because you'll be so busy in medical school anyways. But within 20 hours a week, if you're earning, you know, 15, 20 pounds an hour, 30 pounds an hour if you're tutoring, maybe that can actually be quite a lot. You know, that can be if you're earning 30 pounds an hour as a tutor here in the UK, that's probably 600 pounds a week. You know, so that can actually end up being quite substantial in a way. So I guess that's the main thing, isn't it? So try sort out the big finances. So in terms of the £38,000, how are you going to fund that? Is it going to be, you know, your parents maybe that can help? Maybe you have savings. And then in terms, once you actually get to the UK, then it's about thinking about how to sustain yourself here, isn't it? So it's getting a job if you can to cover the maintenance expenses. Is that pretty much right?
Yeah.
In terms of how you manage
that should be. Yeah, I mean, well, accommodation, food, because depending on how much you're going to spend on food, socializing and things like that. So it will feel overwhelming to some of you, but try to work out the basic things that you need. So pay education and your accommodation, basic food, absolutely key. Yeah. Healthcare is free, so if you're coming to the UK, at least that's not something you have to think about. And
but you do pay like in your visa, you do pay like a bit of extra NHS money, no, for like healthcare.
Yeah.
But it's like quite small compared to.
You pay like 400 a year, I think.
Okay.
So.
Okay. So
yeah. Well, yeah, it's not that. Yeah, it used to be free. Yeah, but anyway, that's a whole other podcast. So once you figure out the initial bits, like you just said, I think everyone needs to then look around and say, okay, what can I do initially to make some money in that 20 hours? And so, you know, look, if you're 18, 19, 20, 21, whatever, think about what have you wanted to do? What would you find interesting? You want to work at a bar? Then you want to be a bartender? You want to, you know, if you think that would be fun, try it out. You know, you want to be at a cafe, do it. And like you said, you know, some people, you want to be a vaccinator and want to get paid for it, then do that. So however you want, whatever you want, work out your uni schedule, pay the basic bills. And actually there are a lot of things you can actually find in the UK, especially in the major cities. And in London, I mean, you can definitely find a job.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in London there's so many jobs available, and that's one of the other good things about being in London. Okay, that moves us on to the question about the application process. And I think you can probably give a lot of people a lot of reassurance on the application process, because I got so many questions of people being like, how do you get from Singapore, from India, from wherever you are in the world to the UK? And I think the application process is largely similar. So do you want to just touch on that briefly?
Yeah. Okay. Well, firstly, let me just tell you that it's been a while since I applied, but I could say that the UCAS application, I think it's still called UCAS, is it?
Yeah.
It's still called UCAS.
Yeah.
So
I'm not that old.
the UCAS application is pretty much really similar to anyone in the UK that would have done it. You're putting up the same documents. If anything, you're adding extra things like your visa, whether you speak English, so that everything is on the website, and everything you ever need to know is on the UCAS website. And I can tell you honestly, I did not go anywhere else to figure out how to apply to the UK. And I am not paid by UCAS, but I can tell you UCAS has everything. So sometimes I'm not sure exactly what more people need. I know that it can be really anxiety filling to be trying to apply and think that, oh, do I need more? But the thing is, you can't add more because UCAS can only take what it's asking you. Just try to fill that up beforehand. If you can get help with anyone that has applied, go ahead. But really, there's everything you need to know is right there on the website. And it's pretty much the same as what anyone else would do. And that's kind of what I did.
Okay. And that's a good point. You mentioned that everything is on the UCAS website, because when I went to Kenya and I was speaking to people who were applying to UK, a lot of them were like, oh, I'm applying through an agency, or I'm using an agency to do it, right? And that was so foreign to me, because from what I understand, it's exactly what you just said, that it's all on there. You go onto UCAS, you register, you put your details in. It's very straightforward. But a lot of people are applying through agencies, and they think they need this extra support to do it. And they think it's quite confusing. But actually, I think UCAS is quite straightforward with what they need, what they require, and how to do it. And it doesn't seem to be anything extra. I think it's exactly what I did. So it's you put in your high school grades, you put in your A-level grades, all of your high school grades, again, whether you speak English, your immigration status maybe, all that stuff, your personal statement, which is what we will all have to do anyways, and then you submit it. And that's pretty much it, right, in terms of the application process.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And if you just follow that, that's all you need to do. But I guess I'm just going to guess some of the things that some people might say, is like there are definitely differences in your experiences depending on where you're from, but you need to use what you've been through, like whatever you have, whichever country you're coming from, use what you have. I mean, don't worry too much about what British students or, are applying for. I mean, it's a different quota. You're not exactly even sort of competing against British students. I mean, technically it's just everyone international versus everyone international. So just use your own experiences, write the personal statement, and just make sure that you have all the requirements in terms of all the little legal stuff. Get a year in advance. Just make sure you have everything.
Because there are some legal stuff you have to do that we didn't, right? So obviously, like a visa is something you had to obtain, right? And I think, is it like an English language? So you didn't, because you had a bachelor's degree, but I think a lot of people would have to do like an English language test as well.
Yeah,
Is
so
that
English
right?
language test. And for medicine, I mean, you have to like send in your police report to just make sure that you're not, you don't have, I don't know what they're actually looking for, but you have
like
to send
criminal
those. But
records.
those are things that you only do after you get an offer. It's not something you do when you apply. So when you apply, it's a very standard process. It's just when you get in, I mean, at that point, I don't think we need to have this conversation, but at the beginning, just focus on what the small things that you need to do, and just make sure that you get everything from your school when you apply.
Okay. So in summary, I think it's very similar to what I did as well. I think as a home student, the applications process quite straightforward. On the UCAS website, they list up everything they need. I don't think it's very different to what I need until the point where you get an offer. And then from that point onwards, I guess it's the medical school really supporting you in your application to get all the documents you need, like you said, the criminal record checks, the health record, whatever that might be. But at that point, I guess it's the medical school who will be giving you direct help compared to you being on your own.
Yep. Once you get in, they'll help you. Yeah.
Okay. So that's really, I think, reassuring, hopefully, to most people. And finally, so last question I have for you is, so what are your plans? Do you intend on staying in the UK? I don't know if you've thought about this yet or you want to share it, but what are your plans in terms of the future for the UK?
Yeah, I definitely. So we have another year to go. So we'll graduate next summer, and I plan to work here for a year because I have been here for so long, and again, it might be a comfort thing that I'm adding on another year, but the fact that I've studied in the UK and I've studied under this NHS system, it makes sense for me to start my first year in the NHS using things that I already know. And I probably, after the year, the plan right now is to go back home. And because it would have already been nearly 10 years, and really I would like to, hang out with my family again full time. So that definitely, and I think it will be very difficult for me to leave. I'm quite sure that before I leave the UK, I can imagine how just it's not going to be a great process. But
because in many ways, it's like, in many ways you're Arun, you're Singaporean, but in many ways you have become British. Like in many ways, like from knowing you, your jokes, your humor is definitely adapted. The phrases you use,
no, definitely. I've been here
you
for
probably
long
know
enough.
London better than I do.
Yeah, I would have been here for nearly 1/3 of my life. I mean, it is home, so that's what it's become. But that just when it's done, it's time to move on.
That's true, and it might be. I mean, I also would be open to one day trying out a different part of the world as well. So it might be, you go back home, spend time at home. Maybe you want to go to Australia for a year, being a doctor. Once you have that degree, you have that title, you could always, I guess, change as well. Well, both of us, possibly could.
And I think once you've done this and you've come here and you've adapted, I think a lot of, if you're not from here, it will studying medicine and realizing that you can be a doctor nearly anywhere in the world. You just have to find the right conversion courses and interviews. Medicine itself will open you up to a lot of opportunities if you look for them during medical school. So just always be open. If you do travel overseas to study medicine, or wherever you study medicine, even if it's at home, just be open to traveling when you're a doctor, because you might just want to, like you said, you might just want to take 2 years out. So this might not happen in medical school, but might happen when you're a doctor. So, there are a lot of things that you should always be open to in terms of adapting and being open to other cultures.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And the final question, as you know, that I ask everyone is: so you've been in the UK now for such a long time, going on 9 to 10 years. You've very much been a part of British culture. You live in London. You study medicine here. You study biomed here. Was the juice worth the squeeze in the end? Would you say?
Wait, what? What does that mean?
Did you not hear that? The last video we made. Was the juice worth the squeeze?
What's the juice?
Was it all worth it in the
That's
end?
really good. That's really good. You know what? It definitely was. It definitely is. There's nothing. I don't regret being here.
Yeah.
And I really, as much as I sometimes feel like I'm not from here, I can't imagine not being here at the moment. So it was definitely, the juice was definitely worth the squeeze.
Okay.
I
That's
think
good
so.
to hear.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, so I know that was the last question, but one thing hit my mind was that now you've obviously said the juice is worth the squeeze.
Yeah.
Was there ever a time in your time here where you felt low, you felt down, you felt like, oh, I'm not entirely sure if this is for me, if I'm not entirely sure if the juice will be worth the squeeze? Did you ever go through that at all?
Yeah, many times. And even recently. So it happens. Like sometimes you wonder whether you made the right choice. You just traveled here, you spent all this money, you're away from your family, you're studying a course that's very long with a career that's also very long. And I'm not trying to make it daunting, but it can be. And you are absolutely right that there are times that you feel low, a little bit confused. But you have to be aware of it. You can't just say that, this is how it is, this is who I am. You have to be aware that, yes, I'm feeling low. Yes, I'm anxious. But always remember that you need to then seek help. And that help can be anything. It can be from your counselor in school. It can be your academic services, your friends, your tutor. There are people around you at university, especially in the UK, nearly guaranteed there will be people helping you. So it's up to you to then say, hey, I really need help right now. And that's something that you always have to be open to. You need to remind yourself, because if you don't step out and accept help or ask for help, it will be very difficult for some people. And
Absolutely.
yes, so I mean, yeah, that's
Okay, great place to end it on. And I think at the end of the day, we're all in this together. There are thousands of international medical students here in the UK, as well as, you. There are thousands of people like me who are from the UK, who are British, but also their families are nowhere near to them. So I think at the end of the day, we're all in this together. And we'll all have our ways of dealing with it, and also dealing with it alone, but also dealing with it together with other people. Cool. So thank you so much, Arun. That's I think for me as well, I learned so much about you, about your experience in the UK, and I'm sure whoever's watching also has. And yeah, I really appreciate your time, man. And hopefully we'll be back on the channel in the future. If you guys have any questions that you guys want to ask Arun, or any videos you'd like us to do in the future, please leave a comment down below and let us know. Make sure you drop a like, make sure you're subscribed as well, notifications on to never miss an upload. And Arun, thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next podcast, hopefully.
thanks, man. See ya.
Take care.